Subletting a home or apartment can seem stressful, even for an experienced renter, but after watching this video, you'll be more than prepared to draw up and sign a foolproof sublease agreement. Here we'll go over the basics of subletting, reasons for subletting, and 5 steps to subletting your apartment. First, what is subletting? Subletting or subleasing is when a tenant currently in a lease agreement finds someone else to temporarily rent their space. The original tenant and their new renter form a new lease together, whereby the subleasee is responsible for rent and all other duties and charges outlined in their separate contract together. The original tenant remains in a lease with the landlord of the property and is liable for anything that happens with the new tenant until the expiration of the original lease. Next, why does someone sublet their space? Subletting is more common than you may think and usually happens for the following 3 reasons. Temporary relocation. Sometimes people may have to temporarily relocate for a few weeks, months, or even a year. Instead of paying monthly for an empty apartment or breaking their lease, the best way to be able to come back to their home is by subleasing to a tenant for a temporary period. Roommate changes. Roommates needing to break a lease early may choose to sublet to another qualified tenant until they are free from the lease. After expiration, the sublessee may choose to enter into a new lease with the landlord. Breaking a lease. Someone renting a home or apartment may need to permanently leave a lease, but a landlord may not agree to breaking the lease because they would have to do the legwork in finding a replacement tenant and potentially losing rental income. Instead, the tenant may find a sublessee to rent their space until the expiration of the lease. Steps to successfully subletting your apartment. Check your lease and laws. Not all tenants can sublet, and many leases do not permit subletting. So you need to check with your lease and local laws to find out whether subletting is allowed. But in some states or cities, subletting is permissible, even if terms in the lease or your landlord states otherwise. Get approval from your landlord. If your lease does not permit subletting, you may be able to negotiate the ability to sublet with your landlord, especially if there are extenuating circumstances which force you to temporarily move. If your state or city does not require permission, it's still better to inform your landlord that a sublessee will be occupying the property. Moreover, make sure to get your landlord's signature on a landlord sublease consent form. We'll include a link to this in the description below this video. Find a suitable sublessee. Because you'll be liable for your sublessee, you should perform a series of steps that normal landlords would usually take. Don't take anyone's word for anything, even if they're a friend. Instead, run a background and credit check. This will let you know if the intended sublessee has any history of evictions or anything else that could be a major red flag. Use rentprep.com for $18.95 for a limited check or mysmartmove.com for $35 for a more thorough sweep. Create and sign a sublease agreement. You'll need to make sure that the new tenant acknowledges and follows each rule set forth by your landlord and is legally bound to the provisions in the original lease. In addition, you'll want to ensure that the lease protects you from liabilities, that you receive timely payments and are able to return to the property if that's your intention. The sublease should at a minimum include start and end dates, rent amount, deposit amount, method of rent payment, late payment charges, utility payments and terms, and signatures of both parties. Collect rent and deposit. At the time of signing and prior to move-in, you'll want to collect a deposit and the first month's rent. If you don't know your sublessee personally, the safest way to go about collecting the first payment is by money order. That way, you know that the payment will clear. Are you thinking of subletting your apartment? We're eForms, the biggest website for legal documents. Find free templates for sublease agreements for every state at the link below this video. And don't forget to subscribe.